Hello, everybody. We are back with a well below average podcast on a Easter Sunday. It's Nick Nepic, Roy White, Adam Ish. Roy might be joining us a little later. It is Easter, so he has some family obligations. But we got Nick with
hmm
us this week. How's it going, Nick?
Yes, I feel like it's a rotating co-host slightly rather than the three of us. Things are way better this week. Last week was rough. My wife was actually in the hospital for a couple of days with pneumonia, so that was not great. But she's way better, feeling better. We're kind of getting back to normal this week, so it kind of happened just in time for Easter, and good to be back. So doing well.
Well, that's good to hear. Good to hear. We just had dinner at my mom's with my brother and his family. It's all their kids are getting older, so it's harder to get everybody. My brother's kids. So uh,
Is there an Easter meal? Like, is there a specific meal that people have for Easter? Like, Thanksgiving turkey, obviously. Christmas usually is like basically Thanksgiving, but mostly ham instead of turkey. Do y'all have an Easter meal that you have?
I don't think we have anything specific. Um, I feel like it's like ham. My mom does ham, which is it's okay.
Yeah, my mom did like a big, almost like like a beef roast, and we did like a roast with carrots, potatoes, all kind of like basically like just your normal pot roast, just a way bigger portion because there were I think it was like 10 of us. So that's what we had. We had some carrot cakes. Like there wasn't any specific dessert for Easter. She gave us, my daughter got her first Easter basket. And of course, the only thing she liked out of it, she got this like little, uh, almost like a stuffed bunny. It's like this big. And of course, she loved that. And I got some candy out of it. So, but we've never had like a specific Easter meal. And I don't think a lot of people like do brunch on Easter. But there's nothing we just do every year, like similar to other holidays.
I don't think we do either. I know like Christmas and Thanksgiving, like green bean casserole, which I love, which is a
Oh,
total.
me too. I think a lot of people hate green bean casserole. I think it's phenomenal.
Oh yeah, I insist on it. I rarely insist on anything at all outside of my immediate family, my wife and kids. But when it comes to that, if you want me to
Yeah.
show up, there will be green bean casserole.
In fact, the food discussion, we will have a little bit of food discussion, and Nick hates it
Okay,
later in the show. So
no, that's
tease
nice.
right into it.
Now, green bean casserole talk, real quick. Fresh green beans, or do you like the can?
You know, I don't think I have a preference. I'm pretty sure growing up, my mom always made it with canned, but I don't know that for sure.
Yeah, and I know I prefer the can because one year my sister in law got fancy and made it with fresh, like garden picked green beans, and it was just no.
And they don't get. I'm sure they don't get nearly as soft. Like that's part of why it's so good. Like it gets soft. Like it soaks in all the flavor with the canned ones. I'm sure the fresh ones don't do that.
Yeah, so they stay kind of crispy and like that kind of
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, where they
it just
snap,
doesn't
right?
work right. So, um, but yeah, we got some food talk coming in. Nick hates it, but let's go ahead and give a shout out to our sponsors because we have a guest coming up. I want to get him taken care of. So, uh, I might talk about Rodeo Coffee real quick for
Yeah,
us.
Rodeo Coffee, small batch roasted coffee right here in Fort Worth. You can catch them on Thursday through Sunday on Walsh at the Walsh neighborhood out here in Fort Worth with lattes, drip coffee. They even have breakfast tacos, espresso, all kinds of stuff. You can follow them on Instagram as you see there, Rodeo Coffee Co. Go pick up a bag of their coffee as well, and tell them we sent you. Uh, phenomenal local coffee. You're getting the fresh stuff too because they roast it, right here. They'll put the date on it, and you get it, right after it's roasted. So check them out.
Yes, check out Rodeo Coffee, fantastic. But also check out our other sponsor right there, this area, Local Menace. They are a Dallas-based artist-owned streetwear brand, and if your wardrobe needs a punch in the mouth, check out Local Menace. They have awesome designs, t-shirts, hats, buttons, pendants, all that cool stuff. And if you look below me, You can use code BEARDCREW for 25% off your order at localmenace.com. So check them out and upgrade your wardrobe along with a fantastic cup of coffee from
Mm,
Rodeo.
I could use some coffee. I had an early morning, like 7 o'clock, feeling pretty late. So maybe I need to go brew some. But I guess I can't do that during the show. That would not be the best idea. But I could definitely use some coffee right now. I for sure could.
Well, I'm wishing you all the coffee goodness in the world. But let's get into it. Let's get into a little news before we get our guest on. Um, talk about our last. He's going to help us at our last news story. But right now, things are happening in Texas, and this is something I think Roy would go off on. But um, you've heard about all this Governor Abbott sending people, busing migrants to Washington D.C.
Yes.
So the second bus apparently just left. Let's see, a couple of days ago, and yeah, what are your thoughts on this? Abbott sending people who are applying for asylum, going through the
Hmm.
process, straight to Washington D.C.
I don't see. I don't really get what it accomplishes. Like even if I'm on that side, like I don't understand what he or his party or his allies, if that's the right word. I don't understand what they gain by it. I guess I'm more confused.
Yeah, I guess it's all in direct response to um, Biden is. I'm trying to think of the words. I got the article here. Uh, Joe Biden plans to end Title 42 expulsion on May 23rd, which is a policy that Trump put in during the pandemic, using the pandemic as an excuse to block migrants from coming into the country.
I just feel like, and maybe this was true my whole life. I'm just more plugged in politically now than I have been ever since I could vote. But I feel like there's this thing that any ad that I see of whether it was it's Governor Abbott, whether it was in these elections recently, it's if it's a conservative candidate, it is all Joe Biden does this, so I'm going to do this. Like I got to protect you from the president, protect our state from the horrible what the horrible president's doing. And maybe that's always been the case. Maybe it's just more now because there's more exposure, social media, that kind of thing. But it's all over the place. And I'm not a Greg Abbott fan. I'm not going to like. You could ask me, did I vote for him? Will I vote for him? No. I'm also not going to badmouth the guy. Well, to a degree, but it just seems a little absurd. And maybe you could educate me a little bit. I feel like the Trump era, if we can call it that, ignited this extra level of divide between party, but also like attack on this side and that side, like even more so, and maybe even in a different way.
I think it did. I don't know. Like I don't want to get into all my like disdain for the politics, but I mean honestly, I feel like it's all Congress does, all the sides do is just they're all in the pockets of these corporations who just want to.
Mhm.
All Congress is mediators between billionaires to make when 2 billion, like I think we're gonna see stuff with this whole Elon Musk wanting to take over Twitter, um,
Mhm.
with Mark Cuban having an issue with it. It's gonna end up in Congress. It's gonna be billionaires fighting out their issues with each other, and they don't really care what we think. The
Right.
more divided we are, the less we come together, the more they can just sit there and do what they want. So
And I think, not to get into like a political segment, but I think no matter what you believe politically, I think that's why I appreciate a guy like Bernie Sanders so much. He's always been the same, like for the 30 billion years he's been in politics.
mm,
Like more than anyone, he seems to be not in the pockets of these mega corporations, and maybe he is, but at least he puts off that he's not. And I can appreciate that to a degree.
yeah. So I'm going to bring in our guest a little early. to do a last couple news stories with us, if that's okay with you.
I'm fine with it. That means I can take some time off, right? I can just sit back and
yeah, man, you're done. All right,
drink my water here.
cash some checks, bro. All right, well, let's bring him in. This is bringing in right now, Stevie Johnston. How you doing, Stevie? Can you hear us? I don't think you
Hey,
can.
what's going on, guys?
Hey, well, welcome to the show.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Well, hi, yeah, well, anytime, man. We've been chatting on Twitter a bunch. This is our first time to actually talk. Roy is caught up with family. He may or may jump on here in a little bit, but yeah, thanks for joining us. We're in the middle of our news segment. I was going to bring you on a little later, but I had you just sitting there in the waiting room. So,
Oh,
um,
it's all good, man. I'm kind of curious as to what exactly it is you guys do, and hearing that you have a news segment, and like that's neat. That's interesting. That you're going a little bit above and beyond just the one realm of sports, because that's entirely where I'm caught up in. I hear you guys talking about the stuff you're talking about, and I'm like, I would have zero input that would be worth anything at all. And so I think it's cool that you guys are well rounded like that.
Yeah, normally Roy carries a lot of the news segments, so he's not here to do that. So we have to jump in.
yeah, Roy has a lot of hot sports opinions on the current events, but uh, I did want to bring you in on one news story. We'll talk about Kelvin Joseph's situation a little bit, and then we'll roll into sports. But last couple of news stories here. Just want to power through. Um, Apparently, so a California teen that has been missing for 2 years, 3 years now. 17-year-old went missing in September 2019. Was found in Utah. Kind of a feel-good story, I think, for a Easter Sunday. A young man with autism was found at a bus station in Utah after 2 years missing from his home. So,
Did he? Was there foul play involved, or did he just leave and?
no foul play.
Okay.
Apparently autistic and has trouble communicating, um, and kind of, I guess, went out, wandered off. I hate to use that term, but yeah, was parents, never give up hope if you're a parent in these types of situations. But yeah, the police had been responding to a homeless man. They've been trying to get help a homeless this kid for several months now. And they found him and they brought him in, convinced him because he does have trouble communicating, convinced him to, let the police help and let them help and fingerprinted him. Found out he did have a warrant in like Nevada for something minor, but then continued to research him and found out he'd been a missing person since he was 17 years old and was able
Wow,
to reunite him with his family.
that's good stuff. It is a feel good story for Easter, right? Makes you feel a little bit better. And I mean, not thankfully that it went on for years, but thankful that at the end of it wasn't something tragic, or something tragic wasn't involved to get to this point. So that's good. That's a good story to end out. I guess start the week or just end the holiday.
Yeah. So
Yeah, and you guys mentioning that story, I actually noticed a couple of moments ago. I had a hat over here that was sitting next to me, and we have a place here locally called the Reach Center that is like a school program for kids of special needs with autism, things of that nature. And every year they have a fundraiser, and so I always make a donation to them. And we got this hat for autism awareness, and so I saw the hat sitting there, and I was like, you know what? Why would I not use that feel good story to kind of plug something that I think is a good thing here in my local area? So I appreciate you guys bringing that up. Like I said, well rounded. Good job.
well, thank you, and kudos to you for doing that. I know it's always good to help um, our local communities. It just seems like more and more, no matter what the situation is, it's getting more dire for people out there. Our last story before we get to some sports talk and Kelvin Joseph and really let Stevie shine here. Um, so 2020 saw a record high for U.S. employees testing positive for marijuana.
I'm not surprised at all by that. Um, 2020 was a heck of a year. People were home a lot. I'll take that back. It's a little surprising only because, like, if people were at home, like working from home more, you would assume that there's like less drug testing at that
Yeah.
point. So that part's a little surprising, but the fact that maybe people are enjoying something like that a little bit more, trying it maybe for the first time, not as surprising with the year that we had in 2020.
Yeah, and it's just the numbers. I don't want to get too much in the article because it's very technical. But yeah, so it rose from 2017. The Quest Diagnostics was getting 2.6% positive tests. Last year they got 3.9% positive drug tests. And it kind of talks about the same thing. People working from home, a lot of laws and have been relaxed in many states
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to marijuana usage. So, um, yeah, it's high times in America now, man.
I guess so.
It never
Let's get
surprises me, like when you find out this person or that person is a smoker. Never stuns me. Like there's no one left on the planet who I would be like, wow, really? Like no, anyone.
No,
yeah.
it's and my tune has changed on it a lot. Um, Especially with all the information we're getting on the opioid epidemic, and my wife's had really bad back issues and refuses to take the oxycontins they try to pump down her throat. It's like, you know, come on. Marijuana may not be the greatest thing or however they distribute it, but I think it's significantly less harmful than basically getting somebody connected to addicted to pharmaceutical heroin. Um,
Yeah.
so But our last news story, it's not really a story, but a topic. I don't have any articles on it. It's local and to kind of what Stevie's talking about earlier, we are well rounded. We're well below average. Don't forget that. We try to talk about kind of relevant DFW stuff, and a big sports and news topic that came up this week was Kelvin Joseph, first year cornerback for the Dallas Cowboys. Didn't play a whole lot in the year, towards the end he did, but was questioned by police in connection to a murder in Dallas that happened about a month ago, mid March. And yeah, so what were your thoughts on this, Stevie? What did you think? Your initial reactions, your initial, yeah, just kind of visceral response when you heard this news?
Well, the first thing that I thought was, there were a lot of people last year whenever he got drafted that said, we're just not really sure about this guy. Like there were red flags. And so that prompts me to go back and see what was I, saying, what was my take on the person during the draft process when he was selected, because I mean, you can kind of look back and say, "Man, I knew this kid," but what did I really feel? And I stuck up for him. When I went back and looked at my tweets from a year ago about Kelvin Joseph, I was like, "Man, look, he's got some mixtapes out. He's got he's a rapper. He likes to do different things. Man, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, what's the deal?" And people were like, "But." You don't get kicked out of LSU or asked to leave LSU just because you have other hobbies.
Right.
And I think that that's something that people who kind of accepted the pick at the time, like myself, failed to kind of see. And as it turns out, Kentucky allegedly kind of pushed him to go into the draft instead of coming back, which, again, I mean, if a team's like, hey man, yeah, you should definitely do this, like get this guy out of here, like that's another. And then I have some other fellow content creators that I talked to, and they posted some stuff from a year ago and live reaction to the pick, and they were all just not thrilled. And so
What
you see something like this, and it's kind of like, should we have seen this coming?
he's a second round pick, right? Am I remembering that
Yeah.
correctly? There's the I've seen this floating around the last week, like the Jerry Jones pick in the second round, like the redemption, or the guy that like the Randy Gregory, so to speak. Like, oh, there's some issues there. Kelvin Joseph, obviously, and then Jalen Smith was a second round pick, completely different reason, injury related. But I saw that floating around this week, and Stevie, I'm not a Cowboys fan, so let me break that news to you. So that was just like a perspective that I didn't even think about, and how it just, I mean, recently it seems like that sort of played itself out. Like there's the risk, so to speak, of let's take this guy in the second round, and we could hit a home run. There could also be baggage or challenges or whatever word you want to use there. But that's just something that I didn't realize until somebody pointed it out. I think I saw it on Twitter or heard it on the radio, something like that this week.
Yeah, the unfortunate part is that's entirely true, and they don't hit on a lot of these risks. I mean, Jalen Smith had a good season that got him paid, and you never saw it again. Randy Gregory finally gets to where he's in ascension, and you lose him. I mean, you stuck by his side the entire time, and whoever you want to blame Gregory and his camp with his agent. You want to blame the Joneses and their camp, and how Steven does deals. And look, that's not the point. The point is you invested in a guy, and you waited, and then you lost him. At the end of the day, that's what happened, regardless of who's to blame. That doesn't work out. You got some good years out of Connor Williams, but he was just a guy. He was a starter, but he's just a guy. And I'm just going through second round picks at this point. Cheeto, kind of the same thing as Connor Williams. Good player. I think we're a little harder on Cheeto than he deserves. I think he was a better player than what Cowboy fans might have wanted to believe he was. And one contract and he's out the door, and rookie contract and he's gone.
And he's played pretty well in Cincinnati this last year, if I recall.
Yeah, absolutely. He had a really good season. But I think something that we failed to see is that his season in Cincinnati was good, but it wasn't like way far and above and beyond what he played in Dallas. So, sorry, So I look at how these second round picks have come out, and the fact that you're not getting second contracts out of guys outside of like DeMarcus Lawrence. That's really the problem. And now here's a second round pick who is supposed to help you move on from Anthony Brown, supposed to help you move on from Jordan Lewis, supposed to help you, kind of set up for where you're going, because that's what the draft is. It's not for the year you're drafting. It's for the next year, the next year, and the next year. And when you're missing on your picks or they're not panning out, talking about those first 2 to 3 rounds, you got to have more than just one second round pick that has been legitimate over the past 7-8 years. Now, I think Trayvon Diggs, that's going well. That's going pretty good.
Yeah.
But again, that's too far in between DeMarcus Lawrence and Trayvon Diggs of guys who either aren't working at all or they're not getting second contracts because they're just not all that great. They got to be better in the second round. And to be honest, the way Kelvin Joseph played as a rookie, like you said, he worked his way back in towards the end of the season. But there were some thoughts about maybe he wasn't playing this year to begin with because he had some immaturity, because he was kind of difficult to deal with throughout his rookie season. So it's almost par for the course for the Dallas Cowboys in a way.
Yeah, and it's frustrating to see it because Nick is a big Steelers fan, and I am not, but love the way they draft. I love the way they put together. They always seem to just no, not always. They have a few misses, but it's man, they draft so intelligently and so conscientiously that it's sickening sometimes to watch how the Joneses do their off seasons. Um, but let's give Stevie a more proper introduction. I'm sorry, Stevie Johnston. You are you're a
You're good.
sports director at what station? I just on your Twitter bio, the East Texas radio. Um,
East Texas Broadcasting. We're east of Dallas. We got Paris, Mount Pleasant, Sulphur Springs. So, we're smaller markets, smaller communities around here. That's why, the smaller radio you get, the more local you get too. And so that's why I wanted to kind of give a shout out to someone who's here in our town. Yeah, we do a little bit of everything, man. I do a music morning show. We do sports, play-by-play for the high schools. We've got a junior college down here as well. So it's a good place to be. And then I also write for Sport DFW, a part of Fansided. So Cowboys content there as well. Just try to stay busy, man. Try to foot to the floor.
That is awesome. Speaking of that, let's get into our sports talk, and then I have a little segment I want to do with you on the air that you inspired me because I stalk everybody's Twitter that's associated with this at all.
That's true. That is true.
Content. I don't think Nick likes it. I'll go into
not always.
So obviously we're in the Cowboys off season, which I think is more probably your wheelhouse, but we just had a big basketball game. The Mavericks dropped game one of the first round against the Jazz. Jazz, am I saying? Yeah.
Yep.
Without Luka, defense looked good. Offense could never get going, and I kind of feel Luka was there. That's a 20-point win. If you have Doncic, because
yeah.
But how we feel about that game? I know Nick, you're a big basketball guy. You wanna?
Yeah. So I didn't get to like sit and watch a lot of this. We had a family day to like shop and eat lunch with my mom and with the baby and all this stuff. And we enjoyed it, but I didn't get to like sit and really watch. But I watched 3/4 of it. And the frustrating part is not how the Mavericks played. Like they played pretty well. The frustrating part to me is that it was a very winnable game without your best player at home, and they couldn't do that. News coming out today that Luka is unlikely to play tomorrow night. We'll see what happens. If they go down 0-2 to go back to Utah, even with Luka, I think you're pretty nervous. And bigger picture here, it's tough. Every playoff series they lose with Luka, like, is pushing him more and more out the door. Like, that's just how superstars are in today's NBA. Like, nobody else is going to be like Dirk. Kevin Durant left Oklahoma City. James Harden has bounced around. I mean, that's just how it is. And so they've got to win a playoff series. Now, if they go down 0-2 and Luka does come back, is it winnable? Sure. I just think they've got a big uphill battle if they cannot even the series tomorrow night. Like I said, frustrating because they could have, maybe should have won that game. Brunson was okay, but not great. Dinwiddie was okay, but not great. They missed a lot of open threes that they typically would make. And so there was a lot of little things that just, prevented that win. But yeah, tomorrow's important. And if Luka's not playing, I'm feeling pretty nervous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Stevie.
Yeah, I never felt great about it once Luka's out game one, because a calf strain, that's obviously different sports, but it's what Dak Prescott dealt with.
Yeah.
And Dak missed a week of football. And obviously basketball doesn't have the physical aspect that football does necessarily, until you're talking about like exploding, jumping, constantly running up and down the court, something that a quarterback probably may or not have to do on a football field.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about a guy who probably shouldn't have played even after he came back, talking about Dak Prescott, you see kind of how long something like that can linger. That's where I'm bothered, because you say he's out
Yeah.
game one, and I automatically jump to, well, that's that. I mean, or is it going to be good here in another 2 days? Because if not, then we're probably looking at kind of holding out that hope, like, game 3, can you maybe please? And if he can't, then he can't, and that's that. They're not going to win without Luka. I mean, I understand
And
they
that
had
was
that. Go ahead, yeah.
I was going to say that was the same. Going back to what you said, that was the same injury that Kevin Durant played through a couple of seasons ago. He had a calf strain, and he played. It was maybe the NBA Finals, and he like blew out his Achilles because like the way that your body compensates for that injury. You put strain in other areas, and like those sharp movements, exploding. Maybe like the Luka step back where he's jabbing forward, like all of that is limited, but it also, I mean, that's how Kevin Durant got even more hurt, because he had a calf strain, played through it, and that's what happened.
Well, and so that brings up a larger point of, this isn't the finals, and this is a 23. Is he 23 now, Luka?
Yeah, 23.
22, 23. I mean, are you prepared to take that risk for a first round series to potentially damage him further? And that's something you have to consider. If he can't really do it, then you should not risk it at all. And if you don't risk it at all, you're probably not going to win the series, but you just have larger things to think about with this player.
Yeah, definitely. I would. I'm a fan of rest him, because you bring up the Dak issue. I think he should have rested longer. Um, I heard something again on local radio. I think it was the ticket talking about that. Yeah, the Durant thing they brought up, that they kind of rushed him back, knowing that there's a good chance he wouldn't be back with them anymore. So you'd hope that they wouldn't do that, but yeah, you got to protect Luka. You got to protect his health, because I don't think. I love that Dinwiddie's here. He's been great. Bertans has been a good role player. Brunson stepped up, but it seems like a really good special team with Luka there this year. That don't risk it, because there's the potential for this team seems out of this world if you have a healthy Luka going forward.
Yeah.
And you're not protecting Luka. You are, but you're protecting your franchise.
Yeah.
Is what you're doing. Because guess what? You're not going to turn around and go, dang it. Like, he's probably out for the 2022-2023 season, or there's going to be some extremely late return. But we can just go out and get another Luka, right? Like, no, that's not realistic. So you have to protect your franchise as well as your player.
Definitely. So they got a game tomorrow. Hopefully they can pull it out without Luka. They seem perfectly able to. Just drop some more shots. But another thing in basketball I've noticed, been quite a couple of protests going on.
Oh yeah, I did see that.
Lady tried to Elmer's glue her hand to a floor in one of the play-in games, and then what was it, the Memphis game? Someone used the plastic chain.
Yeah, a lady chained herself to the whatever it's called underneath the basket. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
She got carried out of the arena, like straight up. 4 guys, shoulder to shoulder, both legs, just carried out of the arena.
Wow.
Human beings, man.
Funny animals, right? But I thought that was interesting. I guess the first one was protesting. It was Minnesota. I don't think they were playing in Minnesota, protesting that the owner of the Minnesota Timberwolves owns or killed some animals or something, burned them alive. Some chickens.
The irony is, like, glue horses, Elmer's glue horses.
Yeah, if they really cared about the animals, they would have used gorilla.
Exactly. That would have been fun to see them chisel her hand off.
Yeah. How dedicated are you?
Exactly. Yeah, it's a publicity stunt.
Elmer's glue.
So one,
But hey, the fun part is she gets to like peel it off their hands. Remember we used to do
yeah,
that in elementary
Yeah,
school and
yeah,
stuff?
absolutely.
Yeah.
yeah.
She's having a good time.
There you go. Got to entertain yourself. Talk about Gorilla Glue. When I was in the military, I was working night crew and I got real bored once, and I Gorilla Glued coins in different spots throughout the hallway in our squadron,
Uh
and it
yeah.
was so funny.
Classic.
One of our officers tried to pick the quarter up, and then he got mad at another shop for doing that, and I just laughed. It was pretty funny. Gorilla Glue is awesome. Um,
It is. Yeah.
we'll get to our bit here. We've given Nick a new job. He's our senior USFL correspondent.
Yeah, I watched all of. Let's see. There's been 3 games I've watched. What is that? 12 quarters. I think I've watched 2 quarters out of 10.
Awesome.
This is the time of year, Stevie, and I don't know about you. Like, I love the draft. I get really, really excited for it. But this is the time of the year where I really start to just miss football on Sundays. Like,
Oh man.
after a few months, like, really, I mean, I would love it all year. But okay, I really want it. I'm really excited. The drafts get me excited for actual games. And so the USFL is on last night. There's nothing on TV. My wife's like, I don't really want to watch anything. So I just threw it on. And it is exactly what you expect, low quality football. Which is also odd that they're playing all the games in Birmingham. So like cities have teams, but they're all in the same place. So it really doesn't make any sense to have like, what is it, the Houston Gamblers, but they all are in Birmingham, Alabama, playing in the same stadium. I think it's 8 games or something. So it's kind of bizarre in that way, but it was pretty low quality, exactly what you expect. I thought about not betting on the game, if you know what I mean, put an under on the game, but I would never do that, ever, because that's how bored I was. But I didn't, and I watched like the first quarter, and then I turned it off for, I don't know what I watched instead, but something else. But it's low quality football, not enough to get me interested to get to the NFL season. I'd rather just read about the draft and listen to podcasts about the draft, and then eventually training camp and so on and so forth. I'd rather watch preseason. Maybe that's not true. I was going to say I'd rather watch preseason NFL football than the USFL or XFL when it comes back, but I don't know if that's true. I think they're probably the same level.
Hey, the XFL was kind of nice while it was here. It was not terrible.
Right. Yeah. It was a little bit better.
Yeah, and I think some of those guys actually ended up in the NFL. The Dallas Renegades had a tight end that I think went to San Diego to the Chargers, something like that. But to piggyback off what you're saying, USFL, Jason Garrett is a commentator.
Yes.
And they evidently paired him up with Chris Collinsworth's son, which that is a tandem. That is a pairing made in, I don't even know. It's not heaven. I'm not sure where it was made, but
Birmingham, Alabama.
And there was a point when they were talking about, because Paxton Lynch came in at quarterback for one of the teams, and evidently Jason Garrett is giving like a little scouting report on Paxton Lynch, and still remember there was the little note that Dallas tried to move up to take Paxton Lynch in 2016 and eventually ended up taking Dak Prescott in the 4th round, and the rest is history. But still, in the year 2022, calling a USFL game, Jason Garrett is comparing Paxton Lynch to Josh Allen. And I'm just like, you have never been wrong in your life, have you, man? Like, there has never been a moment in Jason Garrett's life where he said, you know what, maybe I missed that one. It just blew me away.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, he's wrong on that one. I did enjoy. I did
bit.
think I watched the Saturday game, parts of it, but they went through like the whole third quarter where it was one of the teams. Literally, they were interviewing the head coach, talking to him while he's calling plays, while he's doing stuff. You could hear all the plays being called. Um, that was kind of neat. I'm not gonna lie; it was kind of interesting listening to like them arguing back and forth and like talking about the play and like the listening to the coach kind of talk through his reasoning why he was calling certain things. Um, I did find that interesting enough to watch most of the third and fourth quarters of yesterday's game.
Yeah, that's what you have to do. It's simple marketing. What differentiates us from the NFL? Why would you watch us when you have some? It's such a dominated market, the NFL. And that's why I really appreciated how well the XFL was doing. But yeah, this is, I guess, an attempt to replicate that in a way, but we'll see.
Well, before we get into our little segment here, I want to. You sent me an article. I want to talk a little draft with you. You gave a 3-round mock draft just a few days ago, and I really liked the draft, but I also think you didn't think like a Jones when you
No.
did it. So talk about it here a little bit. Your 3-round mock from Fansided, sportsdfw.com.
Yeah, so I don't think it's necessarily like a 100% done deal that you have to draft. Everybody thinks it's got to be O-line, got to be wide receiver. That has to be addressed 1 and 2, right? Like it's kind of how everybody is going. The only thing is,
Ooh.
Is that you? Who's that?
no, I don't know. I don't think it's on this side. Yeah, I'm not sure at all, man.
Little technical difficulties here. Hold on, let me go one by one. Nope. Nick,
I don't know how.
are your batteries dying in
I don't know.
your earbuds?
I don't think so.
I don't know. Well, there we go. Whatever it was.
Oh, he muted himself.
Oh man.
What about it? So is it still
Not as bad.
Not as bad, yeah.
Live coverage of troubleshooting this sound issue. Stevie, keep talking. I'm going to work on
good.
this.
Yeah. Cool. Well, the thing is, you want to take the best players available. That is kind of the overall concept of the early rounds of the draft. And if you have a player later on that you really like, that you can, go get, maybe he's not the best player available, but now we're talking about the third or fourth round, it's more acceptable to kind of say, you know what, that's what we need. That's the guy that we like. I think he'll have a bigger impact than this guy would, who maybe is a better player, but not necessarily what we need. So early on, though, first round, second round, just get the best football players.
Absolutely.
And it's very, very likely that Zion Johnson could be the best player on their board when they pick. Kenyon Green, one of these wide receivers, absolutely. But I really like Daxton Hill. And I would bet you Dan Quinn really likes Daxton Hill. And if you say, well, they re-signed Jaron Kearse, they re-signed Malik Hooker, that means nothing because Malik Hooker is on a very small 2-year deal.
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, but Daxton Hill can play in the slot. Suddenly, you find yourself in a situation, and I wrote this prior to the Kelvin Joseph stuff, but it kind of now even furthers it along. Like, just because you don't really know where you're at with Kelvin Joseph, Daxton Hill is a phenomenal slot corner as well. So that gives you that option to push Anthony Brown outside while still having a Jordan Lewis, Daxton Hill kind of competition in that slot.
Mm-hmm.
So if you will, imagine a secondary when you go nickel, when you go 5 with Trayvon Diggs, Anthony Brown, Jaron Curse, Malik Hooker, and Daxton Hill on the field. That's a very good secondary. And so I don't know if people are willing to go that direction, but I really like that player. The other thing is now you get into the second round, and I think a lot of people would kind of consider this pick a reach, but I just really, really need a run stopper here. You know what I mean? I really, really need a run stopper. So what that means is Fedarian Mathis is the next guy to come off the board to the Dallas Cowboys. And the last 2 playoff games for the Cowboys, both losses, they gave up 440 rushing yards in two games. 440. So, I get it. You need an offensive weapon. I get it. You need a guard. But you can't continuously lose in the playoffs because teams look at you and go, well, we don't even have to risk throwing an interception to Trayvon Diggs or Micah Parsons coming in and getting a strip sack. We don't have to risk that because y'all can't stop us from running it right down your throat.
Right.
So good luck. 440 yards in 2 playoff games. So now you've got a very diverse safety. You've got a run-stopping defensive tackle finally because they brought on like 1,700 3 techniques who can rush the passer, but none of them can stop the run.
Right.
And so you get that guy, and I think teams are going to – or fans are kind of looking around like, man, okay, I love the defense, but Dak's going to get killed. But the way this draft is kind of formulated, there are a lot of guards and there are a lot of tackles who can move to guard. So a guy like Jamari Sawyer from Georgia could very well be there in the 3rd round at 88. And if that's your left guard, well, that could possibly be eventually, not necessarily right out of the gate, but eventually be better than what you had in Connor Williams the last 4 years. They already like their depth. I don't think that a lot of Cowboy fans realize this or accept it, really, but I don't think that fans are really thinking about Josh Ball from last year, Matt Farniok from last year's draft, as guys who could fill in depth-wise. Still got Connor McGovern on the team, even though no one really likes him. He's still there, And so you may only draft one offensive lineman because they may like Josh Ball more than what we understand. And that kind of gives you that flexibility to play around with things. And if Dan Quinn can have his hand in the draft one more time, just to get that ball hawking safety who can play down in the box when needed, who can play in the nickel, who can play in the slot when needed, and then get him a run stuffer, then suddenly that is a complete defense. And, well, the overall point of the concept of drafting defensively first is your offense doesn't have to put up 30 to win. And that's kind of been a philosophy they've gone by ever since they stumbled upon Tony Romo. I mean, remember, they went to the playoffs with Quincy Carter and a top 5 defense. That was when they had a guy named Leroy Glover stuck in the middle.
Yep.
And Leroy Glover, they haven't seen a guy like that ever since. And they just so haven't had a defense like that ever since. I'm not saying that's the number one reason, but I'm saying it's a reason because you haven't committed to – you kind of poo-poo the value of a defensive tackle when perhaps that's why you've been getting beat in the playoffs, because you don't value that that aspect of the game. You don't really respect it. And so with a guy like Dan Quinn, maybe they go get that ball hawking safety that otherwise they've ignored for quite some time as well. And maybe they go get a run stuffer that they've otherwise ignored for some time as well. It's all going to depend on how much power Dan Quinn has. But I think they're going to be so adamant on the offensive side, protecting their investment, Dak Prescott, and that's obviously smart. You know, if they draft O-line wide receiver, it's not like I'm going to be like, you're wrong, you got to go defense. I'm just saying that you could take the identity of this team a different direction and it be okay. And you have a good football team who can win football games. But they're not going to do that. I just wanted to put the concept out there.
Yeah. Well, I could talk draft all day with you, but we gotta save it. We got time here a little bit, but I wanted to do a little segment with you, and Nick's back with us. I read one of your tweets. I forget exactly what it said, but basically, you just learned something in your 30s, and I was thinking about this, like all this stuff I've learned since I've turned 30. So let's do a little roundtable here and talk about something that we've learned in our 30s. So, Stevie, let's you lead it off here. I can't recall the tweet exactly, but
I know what it was, and in preparing for this segment, I went a completely different direction. I thought you meant like life. You know, what do you learn in life?
Oh,
this was like. You know, because what I tweeted was me making fun of myself. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm 33 years old, and I just recently like put together and was told that the yellow dandelions in your yard grow into the white dandelions that are fluffy that you blow out and they spread everywhere. I had no idea they were the same thing. One day I saw a ton of yellow dandelions in my yard, and I was like, oh, look, pretty, beautiful dandelions. And I know they're both called dandelions. I just never connected it. And so the next, 2 days later, I see a whole field in my yard of just white dandelions. And I'm like, where did all the wait, those are oh my gosh, are they the same thing? And it just kind of hit me. And I'm like, I'm 33 years old. I should have known this.
Yeah, that's a good one. You got one, Nick?
Not anything like that. I guess I'm the youngest one here. I'm 30, so I just turned 30 in the fall, and became a dad right before that. So a lot of things.
Congratulations.
Thank you. A lot of things that they relate to babies and life. I don't have anything to. I'm sure I do, but I have to think about it something to the level of hold on. Wait, that is a thing, like the dandelion thing. I'm sure there's something like that, but I just don't know it off the top of my head. I mean, just learning regular adult stuff like insurance. Never knew anything about insurance until I turned 30 and had a kid and had to figure out health insurance. So there's that, which is a serious thing. But I don't have anything, at least that I can think of, as good as what Stevie has there.
And that's a solid one. Mine's one that just learned maybe 2 days ago. So I'm not a drinker really, occasionally, but my wife, she went through a wine phase, and I remember us we got a corkscrew and put it in the wine, and it was just tore the cork out trying to get it out, And I was watching TikTok, and I saw a guy with the exact same corkscrew, and I'm like, okay, how does he do this? There's a whole method. He screws it in, and you use the little levers to lever it up, and it was so easy. I was like,
oh yeah, I knew that one.
I didn't. I remember the last time she bought an actual bottle of wine, she was holding it, and I was holding the corkscrew, and we're like, ah. And yeah, all it was beep. And I was like,
man. So I think your 30s is where you really start to
figure it
I
out.
think your 30s is where you really kind of start to see a little bit of your parents in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the worst because, and not really parents, but maybe like why a generation acted and said the things they did. Because, like I said, I do a music morning show, and constantly it's like a today's hits, So shout out to all you Bieber and Grande fans out there, but it's just I always catch myself like, man, my music was so much better, what I used back in the day, you know what I mean? And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, that's it, there it is, because Madonna was just way better than Alicia Keys and Rihanna, you know what I mean? And I'm like, standing for Rihanna, like she ain't and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is yeah, okay, I see it now.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of. But there's plenty of stuff. It's like, yeah, and I do see myself. I feel I say the same stuff to my kids that my dad did when he was. It's like, I'm getting old here, man.
Oh man.
But hey, Stevie, I really appreciate you jumping on with this. Hope we can have you back again one day. Tell us where people can find you. I got your I think I got it right here. Your Twitter handle up.
Yeah, Stevie J PTX. Like I said, I'm with East Texas Broadcasting. We do a lot of local sports, and also I do Dallas Cowboys content on fansided sportdfw.com.
Awesome. We'll check Stevie out. Give him a follow. If you're out there in the East Texas area, make sure you listen to that awesome Bieber morning show.
Mix 1077, baby.
1077. Well, Stevie, I appreciate it. You jumping on. Yeah, you have a great time. Nick, you got anything for Stevie?
No, good stuff, Stevie. I followed you on Twitter today, so looking forward to some draft content in the next week or so, and it'll be good stuff. So thanks for hopping on.
Yes, sir. I actually have a mock draft coming out Monday, as a matter of fact. So
definitely.
Thank you guys for having me on.
Hey, thanks for joining. Have a good day. We'll see you later. Stevie, thank you. All right. Well, that was Stevie Johnston. Awesome. Wishing Roy would have jumped on because I know him and Roy are friends. But yeah, check him out on the Twitter and his FanSided article. Very, very well written article. I didn't get a chance to say that while he was on. But let's move into Nick Hates It. You teased it earlier, and I want to get it in before we go too long.
Yeah, so I wanted to get this in last week, but wasn't able to be on the show. I saw this floating around Twitter, and maybe I'll talk about it. So if you did, sorry. But I saw a tweet going around canceling people for their food takes. So some of your worst food takes. And so I wanted to share one or two of mine for Nick Hates It. A couple of things here. The first, and this is probably the one, well, they're both probably going to get me attacked. The first one, though, maybe more nationally rather than regionally. The first is that peanut butter and jelly is awful. Jelly ruins peanut butter. If you're going to have you just need a peanut butter sandwich. Bread, peanut butter, bread. That's all. No jelly. It's too sweet. Ruins peanut butter. PB&J, terrible. The second one, biscuits and gravy, very overrated. Very overrated. Biscuits are great. Gravy, also great. Together, I don't want them as a meal.
So I'm with you on the first one. Right with you. Jelly is an occasional thing if I'm just feeling whatever, or if we have like the jammers with swirled.
How do they do the swirl? I mean, how do they do in the same jar?
You never seen it?
Oh, I have. I'm just saying, like,
yeah,
pretty cool.
It's like striped in there. You open it, it's
like I kind of want to buy it just because it's cool to look at.
Yeah, it's cool to look at, but I like it, but I'll never finish a jar. Like by the end of the jar, when it's all mixed together, it just looks like no.
Yeah,
I'll eat the first quarter of a jar, and then I'm done with it. The biscuits and gravy are not my go-to, not my absolute favorite, but I do enjoy an occasional biscuits and gravy. If the biscuit is soft and fluffy, and the gravy is got to be quality. It can't be no.
It can't. So I don't dislike all biscuits and gravy. I will say most biscuits and gravy because usually the gravy, like, it needs to be thick. Like, it's got to be like a thick, good gravy, and it's better when you half the biscuit. So like rip it in half, because then it's not just like you don't get a bunch of dry biscuit with a little bit of gravy. It kind of covers the whole thing there.
Yeah, it's got to be split. But BGG Grooming Dagan, our friend here, says peanut butter and jelly should never be pre-mixed. So he is anti goobers, or something like that.
Yeah, I forget the
Yeah,
name.
I call it jammers. I think that's Kool-Aid.
What
And he doesn't gravy.
Do you have any food takes?
I mean, I'm a big fan of candy corn. I think we've talked about that on Halloween. I don't understand the hate. I think it's like hating Nickelback, right? It's popular.
Right.
Big food takes. I'm not a very picky eater. I don't do coleslaw. I don't do sauerkraut. Most cabbage-based stuff, I'm thinking I don't really like.
Is there something popular that you like? Like, maybe you don't hate, but like it needs to be this way. Peanut butter and jelly, for example. I'd rather just have the peanut butter.
Man, I can't think of anything top of my head. I know there are some, like restaurant ones, like Taco Casa. I think is hot garbage.
I love Taco Casa.
I know, and I think we've had this conversation.
Yeah, we have. Here's one. Candy wise, and I might have mentioned this around Halloween. A candy that I love that I feel like a lot of people don't like is Almond Joy. I love Almond Joy.
Yes, it's very good. Yes. What about Mounds? You a Mounds guy?
They're fine.
Got to have the almond, or okay, yeah.
I like the Almond Joy better.
I know I have some hot food sports opinions, but I just can't think of any at the moment. But yeah, so if you need to cancel Nick for his food takes, it's at Nick Nepic on across all platforms there.
Yeah, at Nick Nepic, and the peanut butter and jelly one is one that I will take to my grave. I've probably eaten more just like plain peanut butter sandwiches in my life than anything. Like any food, probably eaten more of those. So get out of my face, jelly. I see no reason for you. I don't even like it on toast, like just on toast. Ugh.
Same way with jams and preserves.
Preserves, I would put at the top of the list, but not because I like them. I just maybe prefer them over the others.
I don't know the difference. Maybe that's my food opinion. I don't know.
There you go.
What's the difference is. Last thing before we go, I found I think, a new show. I had never heard of it. I saw it after it aired the first two episodes. It's Outer Range on Amazon Prime.
I haven't heard of it.
So check it out. It's not a Western per se. It's a modern day, about a rancher. Finds this weird hole. So it's a supernatural kind of like I don't know. That takes place Montana. I think I said that. Big ranch out there, and it's all kinds of stuff. But it's got a supernatural bent to it. It's really weird, but really well put together. I don't know. It gives me some it's definitely building to something. It's kind of a slow burn. It's starring Josh Brolin, who been in a ton of things, Goonies, all the way to the Avengers movies.
And is it still just a couple episodes in?
Yeah, they dropped the first two episodes last Wednesday. They're going to drop episodes every Wednesday. Not sure the length of it though. I'm hoping it gives us a nice, meaty 8 to 10 episodes.
Right.
But yeah, a lot of.
Remind me of the name.
Outer Range.
I was looking it up on my phone here so I can have it for reference.
We're really good at looking stuff up on our phones mid-podcast.
Well, if I don't like typing in now, I'll forget. Outer Range. Got it. Yeah. It's saved in my browser here.
Awesome. Yeah, so it's on Amazon Prime. Dropped the first two episodes. I thought it was fantastic. A lot of drama, a lot of suspense. And then that supernatural element to it really kind of gives it a little extra punch.
And we don't watch this show, but Mayans, the FX Sons of Anarchy spinoff comes back this week for season 4, 3,
Yep.
4. So excited about that.
Yes. Yes. And I know it doesn't work out, but I know Vincent Vargas. He can't do on weekends. I'd really love to get him on the show. I'm gonna see if we can't figure something out. Maybe I'll if I can't get an interview with him during the week, just one on one. But um, yeah, it's a great show. Mayans. I think we need to watch that as well.
Yeah. So starts back on Tuesday.
All right, so check out that. I just want to thank everybody for watching. Tune in, share the show. You know, come in. We do about this time, 6 to 7 every. Start around 6 to 7 every Sunday. Check us out. Check out our sponsors: Rodeo Coffee, um, Local Menace, Ish Beardworks, my company. Follow us on Twitter, and yeah, anything before we get out of here?
No, just happy draft week eve of draft week, however you would say that for all of our
Yes.
football fans.
There you go. And yeah, till we see you next time, stay above average.